All right, it's currently 10:19 on Sunday night, July 12th, 2026, and we're wrapping up a pretty high quality Sunday. Today was an interesting day. Started much later than I expected. I didn't have like a particular time I needed to wake up today, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna catch up on some sleep, thinking that since I went to sleep at 9 p.m., I would probably wake up around like 7 or 8 being the fact that I would get 11 hours of sleep. I ended up waking up at 11 a.m. today. So I got 14 hours of sleep last night, which tells me that the jet lag doesn't affect me thesis is only partially correct and not fully correct. I think that it didn't really hinder me from doing anything. Today I still got everything done that needed to get done. I'm just not as tired as I would like to be at 10:22. So this will be the last thing that we do for the night, and then pop into bed and get some good rest because we've got to be up at 4:30 tomorrow. That should snap us right back into it. But it was really good to get in that groove of, or not get in that groove. That is not the right figure of speech to use right there. But just catch up on a little bit of sleep and know that we definitely paid off some of the sleep debt from the Japan trip. But anyways, today was really high quality day in terms of work output. We got two big things completed. One of them was on schedule, which was the internal onboarding checklist for when a new client comes on. So basically the operating manual for what sales needs to do in order to have a successfully onboarded client, what customer success needs to do in order to have a successfully onboarded client, and then what the creative director needs to do in order to have a successfully onboarded client. And then basically it was like a 1-by-1 checklist / SOP where everything, actually it was a checklist, and then each like line item of the checklist, when it asked to do something, linked to that SOP within Notion. So basically one of the things that I've struggled with was like, how does an SOP actually populate? Like, oh yeah, we want to have an SOP, we want to have a checklist, like awesome. I was never really too sure what that final output looked like, and today was one where I was like really happy with the work that we ended up outputting, which was basically it was broken up into phases based on who was responsible. So like this is a Notion document, so it was like sales had a call out just like block that made it look cool, and then it was like the 4 steps that sales needs to do in order to have a properly onboarded client. Customer success, like 8 to 10 steps that the customer success need to do to have a properly onboarded client. And then it was like, oh, well, like where do those link to? Does that link to Google Docs? Does that link to a Notion doc? What if it links to a Notion doc that people don't have access to? Like, how do we share this? So we'd make it one page in Notion, and each of the docs or each of the checklist items linked to a doc that was copied and pasted over as an appendix on that page. It was like appendix / resources, and it had all of the docs at the bottom, and the links on the checklist would just link to those specific items on the checklist, or would link to those specific items in the docs at the bottom of the overall document. So that was how it ended up populating, which I thought was pretty cool to finally put one of those together. That's like well done in my opinion. And it's a pretty monstrous task, like everything down to the granular detail of what happens from when a client pays us, not even pays us, like before that, like contract signed, proper expectations set, things like that on the sales side, and then what happens internally and externally from an onboarding perspective for the clients. Externally, that pretty much got solved by creating the onboarding form, which is ultra dense now. This is like V7 of our onboarding form, and it's by far the best one. I would hope each of them would be the best one, but this one's really fucking good, and we've got really good feedback on that form and really good feedback on our onboarding process. This is the first time that we've gotten clients saying like, oh wow, this was a great process to us during the onboarding process, and we're 2 for 2 on clients saying that unprompted, like, wow, I feel really heard and seen in this onboarding, or oh wow, the onboarding process is really dialed, I feel like you guys get me. And this was the first 2 run-throughs of our new onboarding after our last EOS session, where we put our number 1 rock as dial in the client onboarding. So overall, really stoked about that. That was the first thing that we did, was the onboarding checklist. So just finalizing that was the culmination of a lot of work that had been done before. This was really just like the polishing. After that, I took all of my raw notes on a couple different categories from Japan, which is basically like how to travel better and be like a better tourist. So like knowing more about the area, knowing more about the culture, learning a bit of the language beforehand, and planning a lot more in advance, like the restaurants, where to go to, when to go do what at what times, and like having a structured wandering block. So basically doing a lot more prep beforehand. So I made some notes about that. Did a Loom overview. Side note, one of the things I've started doing recently that I really like is having all of like the stray notes and stuff that I learn and like write as lessons in my notes. What I'll do is I'll put those into a database in Notion. So like each individual page will be named something, and then I'll do a Loom overview of those notes, so I can fill in the gaps of what may not be able to be widely understood just from the notes. And when I go on a monologue on the Loom overview, if I later go and look at that note and want to relearn that lesson, I'll be able to just chuck that into like Claude and be like, yo, what did I say in this? Or just watch the monologue. So did that for travel notes, like how to be a better tourist, how I can be a better leader for my family. So basically like interactions with my mom, dad, brother, and then of course when I have family in the future, just like how I can be the leader and make sure that my energy is always there no matter what the situations are. Because right now, like, my environment is fucking perfect to work all the time, and I get thrown off a little bit when I'm out of this environment. So working on maintaining that energy, there was notes around that, and then one more note that I had around relationships and selecting a significant other, which is basically like, if it doesn't feel like you're on a fucking prank show to the point where everything is so perfect, you feel like a game show host is going to jump out of the bushes and be like, you're pranked. Like, that's how you should feel about the person that you're getting into a relationship with. I learned that on a call the other day with a good friend and mentor of mine that told me that, and I was like, I want to make a note about that. So those were some of the categories, as well as documenting the journey. This is obviously a big piece of that, but I want to continue to double and triple down on documenting my life and my journey, and just making sure that we have these as assets going forward. So those are the first two things. Then prepped calls for the week. So like all the notes, outcomes for the calls in Notion, and then also just set up the week for success. So like what tasks need to be done at what time throughout the week, and then what details I needed for each of those tasks. Notion's been making it really easy to do that. Well, not necessarily really easy. It like obviously takes a lot of effort to put in the details that are needed, but it makes it much easier to like organize it. So that's what I did. Then went for a 4-mile easy run. Let's go. Sorry to get tired. Went for a 4-mile easy run. Called my dad while I was on the run, and then we talked for a little bit while I was eating dinner tonight as well. And then ordered some groceries, which are really important. Got some high protein bagels, and I got some grapes and bananas and some carbs from before the run. My fitness coach said that I could eat like 5 trolley gummy worms before each of the runs I go on. So I'll take him up on that. He said it was good. So I'll do that. We also got some bananas back there as well. So we've got food for the week. We've got fly out coming up on Friday morning. I'm going to be heading over to Florida, and we're going to be doing a 100 video shoot there for short form. So that's going to get finalized tomorrow. The script's going to be finalized, sent in tomorrow. And then, yeah, we've got a really big week ahead, but of course we'll be documenting and sharing how things go on here. So I'm going to upload this, stretch out, and hit the sheets. See you tomorrow.